Hey folks, this is a little video on people that have a P0420 catalytic converter efficiency. All right, that usually means that you have a bad cat, but it doesn't really mean that you need a cat. What happens is that there is two oxygen sensors. Let's pretend this is the cat. I'll flip it around this way. There's a cat in the middle. Then there's an oxygen sensor in the front of the exhaust pipe. And then there's an oxygen sensor in the back of the exhaust pipe. So what it does, it measures the amount of raw fuel that will pass through the first sensor and through the back sensor. And has to fall within that gap, within that specifications. All right. So let's say, for argument's sake, it's supposed to be 10, no more than 10, no less than 0. All right, so it has to show that it's working. All right, if it comes in as a 10, it should go out as at least a 5 to show that the cat is burning up the raw fuel. All right, so it's going to check that by electrical connections and the little sniffer over here with all these holes that sniff up the gas. All right, so it's going to go from 10 to 5. And that's within specifications, and you are going to be good. If the cat is clogged and it's not working, it's going to be 10, and there's going to be 10 coming out. So that means it didn't work at all. Or maybe 11, whatever the specification is out. Okay, so basically, like I said, the cat has to burn all this freaking raw fuel coming out to make the emissions work properly. So that's why it sets a code. But you also have to remember that it's not always the cat that's bad that gives you the P0420. Sometimes the car is running so rich and has so much fuel that the problem is that it actually overtakes the sensors and overtakes the cat, and the cat cannot burn all that raw fuel. So if you have so much fuel coming in here, like 20, 25, 30, I'm just giving you rough numbers, this thing, no matter how hot this thing burns in thousands of degrees, it's still going to come out 10, 15, 20, 30. Do you understand what I mean? So it's not always the cat that gives you the problem with that. Okay? Lots of time it could be that the car is just running rich. And if it's running rich, you have other problems. Okay? There's a reason why it's running rich. The computer senses it, and the computer would add more fuel to the injectors, and you get nothing but just raw fuel coming out. So you have to work on that also. So it's not always the cat. Now, all right, so with that in mind, these are all over the internet. Everybody does it. There's a little tiny bit of a trick if the car needs to be inspected or pass inspection. This is just temporary, just to get the light off. After that, replace the cat or fix why it is running rich. Okay, Dorman makes this. It's called spark plug fouler. Okay, the idea of this, the original idea, is that when you have a spark plug and it's burning oil inside the engine because you have engine problems, what it does, it covers up the spark plug. See, the spark plug will fire in here. The flame will come out through this little hole, and oil won't soak the outside of the spark plug and then ruin it, because then after a couple 100 miles or 1,000 miles, you got to change the spark plug again because it's full of oil. So this is a spark plug fouler. It's basically just a little hood or a little tent that goes over your spark plug, and it fires through that little hole. So what the internet has been doing is they've been using this as a trick to trick the cat converter to not smelling all the raw fuel. Okay, now these have to be modified. This hole has to be cut and drilled. You see how it's tapered in? You see how an oxygen sensor has a little tip, a little nose? Some oxygen sensors are short, and you're fine. This one's just a little bit long, and you notice that it's not going to thread in. It just touches the first thread. So it touches it. You see, you can see it in there. Okay, so the idea of this little trick is to, instead of having this oxygen sensor, I can't talk today, stick its nose into the cat converter like this, and this is the little tip with all those holes, and that's what smells all the raw gas that comes out. All right, so instead of sticking it all the way in like this, the trick to this is to install a spark plug fouler. Okay, it's got to have the same threads. Okay, so here's a nose. You notice where it is. And when I stick it in, it's going to be inside, you see? So it's a good 3/4 of an inch away, and all these holes are covered except that one big hole. So the whole idea or the trick to this is that you're going to screw this thing onto the oxygen sensor and screw this into the cat converter. So now what happens is that the gas that comes flying through here is not going to be attached to all those 8 holes that are on the sensor. It's only going to sniff it from here. Okay? Because it covered it up. It's almost like a little tent, right? You know, a little roof over your house. So when the raw gas is coming through here, it's just going to sniff half the amount that it normally would if it was full with all these holes. That's the idea. It works pretty good. I have used it on a couple of cars until they get the cat converter done. Okay, because they couldn't stand the light. Even though the car runs okay, it runs a little rich, but it instead of spending $100 to $1,000 on a cat, they did this for now until they get enough money to change the cat. But yes, definitely change the cat. But before you change the cat, make sure you fix the original problem. Okay, verify it. You can use a scanner. You can use live data. You can verify that it is not running rich. Then it's a bad cat. If it's running rich, you need to find that problem. All right. Remember, these are all computer controlled cars. So if you have an exhaust leak, if you have extra air coming into the exhaust system, or air coming in from somewhere, these things are going to sniff it. It's an oxygen sensor. It's going to sniff more air than normally that your car would normally have. So what happens is that the oxygen sensor senses air. It messes up the mixture because it sounds like it's lean. So it tells the computer, hey, you know, for whatever reason, I'm going uphill, or this person's flying at 80 miles per hour. I need more fuel. So the computer doesn't know any better. It just adds fuel, and now it's running rich, even though you're sitting at a light or a traffic stop light. Okay? So remember, everything's computer controlled. It all goes by sensors. Okay? It's not an old carburetor like the old days. Everything is computer. So when it's computer, it goes by sensors. All right? So yeah, if you want to do that temporarily, I highly recommend that you change the cat eventually. Okay? But on this one here, see that little tab there? You're going to have to drill that little hole out there and just make it a little bigger. Okay? You can go through this way with a step drill or this way with a step drill, just so that this nose can just go in a little bit, and you can screw this in. Okay? This only grabs one thread, but it's not a good, it doesn't stay there for too long. All right? But yeah, that's highly recommended. There you go. Spark plug fouler. Got this at AutoZone. All right. Thanks for watching, people.